So back with introductions into the science of the Quran, we're going to kind of just breeze through these last little couple of chapters and just touch some of the important points so that we can complete this, because it's pretty much done. So right here is chapter 7, which is cause of the revelations, right? The Wahi. So it's referring to like the situations that was going on so that ayat came down. Something specific that happened, and either the Rasul didn't know what to do at that time, so he didn't, like if they asked him something and he didn't answer, and he paused and then he waited for Allah to inform him to bring the ayats down, the wahi, on what to do in that particular situation or how to answer that particular question that he was asked, or whatever the situation was. And this is knowing these things is extremely important, especially for those who try to, I don't want to say issue a fatwa, but when you're trying to force certain things on people and then you want to use the Quran as your base, your foundation for the evidence, but what you trying to force on them, it might not apply to their situation. But when you know why certain ayats was revealed and the situation was going on, it make it a lot easier to have that in line, whatever ruling you trying to go with, because you have more knowledge of why this was there. Like, this is the situation, this is why that ayat came down. So not just like a general fall on the Quran this way, but when you're trying to force something up on the people, it might not apply like that. And this may sound strange, but believe me, there is certain individuals that try to force certain things on people due to their misunderstanding. And they may say, well, the Quran says this, and they try to use that as dalil. Or what a hadith says this, and they try to use that as dalil. But it's not that simple. It's not that simple, because you have to know about abrogation, and when you try to force it on some people, you see what I'm saying? It might like I'm just gonna touch this small part before I get started, right? So imagine we all Muslims, right? We all Muslims. Now, imagine me saying, I don't deal with no innovation. I can't stand bid'ah. But at the same time, turn around and say, I can't be your friend because you're not Salafi. You're not a Salafi Muslim, so I can't be your friend. You're not an Ashari Muslim, so I can't be your friend. That's a bid'ah. Because now you're introducing a principle into the, not the deen of Islam, but into your deen that you're calling Islam, and then you standing on it, and this is a principle that doesn't belong there. Because these individuals hadn't done nothing. Like, it's not mandatory that you refer to yourself as an Ashari. It's not mandatory that you refer to yourself as a Salafi. It's not mandatory that you refer to yourself as a Sunni. Now, if you want to put yourself in those classifications, at least know exactly what they mean before you do it. Because once you start saying, I specifically don't go to your masjid because y'all don't call it Salafi, although you do the exact same thing in your masjid that I do in my masjid. And then you want to use a Quran ayat, right? And to make this permissible when that Quran ayat doesn't apply. That is a bid'ah. Your masjid isn't permissible to go to because you don't call it Salafi, because you don't call it Ashari. You understand? Now that's a difference if it is a masjid that has some real bid'ah in it, where it's standing on principles of bid'ah. That's a different situation. But when just because they don't call themselves an Ashari masjid, just because they don't call themselves a Sunni masjid or Salafi masjid, that doesn't make their masjid haram. So once you start to say your masjid is no good, we introduce a principle that is not permissible to go to your masjid because it's not Salafi. That is a bid'ah. Because but you may be an individual that say, I avoid all bid'ah. And if you don't want to say that is a bid'ah, you don't agree that that's a bid'ah, right? Then, like one of their favorite sayings is, who preceded you in this action? So not just the Salafis, because the Sunni. A Sunni, what if a person who calls himself Sunni says, I'm not going into that masjid because that masjid is not permissible to go to because they call it a Salafi masjid. But y'all do the exact same things inside of the masjid. There's no bid'ah in it. You may not like the way that they treat people. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I don't like how the Sunnis is. They're a little bit too lax. They cool with all the Muslims. Then the Sunnis may say, well, I don't like how they act in that Salafi masjid, because if you don't call yourself a Salafi, they'll treat you like you're not even a Muslim. You see what I'm saying? This is an innovative practice, regardless to whether whoever doing it, whether they want to accept it or not. Now, because you've made it a principle. This is an action that I live by, and Islam said this is an action that I'm supposed to live by. This is the way of the Sunni. This is the way of the Salaf. Show it. Show your dalil. Then you want to come in and say, oh, well, a particular scholar said that it's permissible to do this. Okay, but is there ijma on that? Is there ijma on that? Which means consensus. Do the majority of the scholars say that's permissible? Because you might have 100 scholars that say that's not permissible, and then you might have 2 scholars that say that it is. The issue is when you issuing it as like a fatwa, where you done turned it into a principle. I don't speak to any Muslim unless they Salafi. Like you have in Islam, even when people don't like it, it's permissible for a Muslim man to marry a non-Muslim woman when she meets a particular criteria. But she is a Muslim. But that same Muslim man may turn around and say, I can't marry no woman unless she call herself Salafi. She don't have to actually be up on ijma of the Salaf, but she has to call herself Salafi. So it's not permissible for me to marry one of them. It's permissible for you to marry a Muslim woman. So introducing this type of practice as a principle is a bid'ah. No ifs, and buts, or maybe, no way around it. And then again, people will try to use Quran ayats and hadiths, or the saying of a couple of scholars. Something it can't be a ruling, because at this point this is the opinion of a particular scholar, and this is what all and this is just what all of it. The Asharis, I can't marry no sister unless she Ashari. I can't marry no sister unless she's Hanafi. These things, I can't marry no sister unless she's Salafi. I can't marry no brother unless he's Salafi. I can't marry no brother unless he Hanafi. These is innovative practices once you introduce them as a principle. I stand on this, I live by this, and this is the only way that it's supposed to be done. That's a bid'ah, man. Regardless of whether you want to argue it, you can prove that it's from the religion to be that way. A Muslim is a Muslim, man. Because just because one doesn't refer to themselves as a Hanafi Muslim, you can't take them out the fold of Islam or treat them like they have left the fold of Islam because they don't refer to themselves as Hanafi, or they don't refer to themselves as Shafi'i. You can't. You understand what I'm saying? And then a lot of individuals don't even have a true understanding. Like, let's say this right here. And you have to be careful because, like I'm saying, individuals try to use Quran ayats and hadiths and twist them and stick them in that little box and force them up on people. And then people with limited education, they start to enforce these same type of sayings and practices on other people. Even to the point where they will so-called boycott you. Why y'all boycotting that brother? Oh, because he went and talked at a masjid that doesn't refer to itself as a Salafi masjid. Is the Prophet masjid in Medina referred to as a Salafi masjid, as an Ashari masjid, as a Hanafi masjid? When you go to Mecca, is that a Salafi masjid, a Ashari masjid, a Hanafi masjid? But y'all coming with these principles that y'all have introduced into the religion, especially for the ones who claim that hate bid'ah so much, but then try to use Quran ayats and particular hadiths that may be da'if and twist them up and force them on the people. So this is why it's good to know the situations that why a particular surah or ayat was revealed, for when you try to place a ruling on people. You see what I'm saying? And it takes some ilm, it takes some knowledge, man. But let me get to it so we can squeeze out of this. I just wanted to touch on that because this stuff is really dividing the Muslims heavily. Like, and I guess the reason why I'm referring to the Asharis and the Salafis so much, because I've been watching them debate, and this is something that's hard. I hate to admit this, but the Asharis be crushing these Salafi cats because M-wise they can't match them. Now I'm Salafi because I'm up on the minhaj of Salafiyya according to Ijma'. You see what I'm saying? When there's Ijma' on a particular decision that wasn't necessarily in the Quran, it wasn't necessarily in the Hadith, and then the companions and the ones they taught had to look at that situation and then and look at certain situations that came down to where ayat was revealed, or the situation when the Rasul did something or told them something that's considered to be a hadith. They had knowledge of that particular situation to where these things was revealed, so they knew how particular rulings could be a little bit more firmer and closer to the wahi because they was familiar with the situation. So the majority of them, which is Ijma', thought this. So when it comes to that particular situation, you up on Ijma'. So that's what it means by the understanding that the Salaf had. Really the Salaf of Salih. The Salaf is like most people like to say, due to hadiths though, which there's hadiths that do say 4, but the first 3 generations of Muslims, a blanket statement. I practice Islam, I follow Quran and Sunnah with the understanding of the first 3 generations of Muslims. But within those generations of Muslims, you have people that said Allah exists without a place. If they was in the first 3 generations, that makes them what? Part of the Salaf. You have people from within that said that the Quran was created. That makes them what? Part of the Salaf. You had individuals that was within that same first 3 generations that said things like the Quran was the speech of Jibreel. You had people from within those generations that argue whether what was created first, the pen. There was a lot of differences, a lot of things that they didn't agree on. Are we talking about amongst the Salaf? And the Salaf, these generations were spread out. Africa, Shams, Mecca, Medina, modern day Turkey, modern day Iraq. You know, they was going by different names then, like Kufa. So it was spread out. And it wasn't like how today is, where you have social media and things where you could reach people through phone. You could, like right now, you know, you could get on Messenger right now, or WhatsApp or Zoom, and call somebody in Saudi Arabia. Or if you had a phone number, you could do a telelink back in the day with a scholar. You could jump on a plane, go over there. You couldn't do this way back in them times. So there was a lot of different things. Like, you had to understand, even during the time of Uthman. So this is for the ones who really learn and study. In the time of Uthman, you had individuals who was fighting and attacking each other because they didn't even agree with how they all recited the Quran. They all didn't see eye to eye on that because they was all taught a different way, and they fought. And this was during the time of, this is in the first generation. Well, this is, we'll just say with the Sahaba, because some people want to say, well, maybe that wasn't the first generation. But this is during the time of a Khalifa of the Sahabas, during the time of Uthman, right? You had these, so it wasn't like everybody from the first 3 generations had the exact same understanding on how Islam went. So they had what's called ijma, consensus. A majority of them understood it this way. Anybody who know, you have some Salafis who tried to say that Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal wasn't from the 3rd generations based off of whatever criteria they come up with. But you have 4 madhabs from individuals that was in the first 3 generations of Muslims, right? Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, and Hanbal. All you got to do is go look at their madhab and just look at something like wudu. They don't even all have the exact same understanding of how wudu goes. Not to say that the way they do it, if any of it's permissible. Some of them say you got to wipe your neck. You got to come all the way down and wipe your neck and flip your hands over and wipe your neck up like this. That's difference of understanding. You understand? So this blanket statement of we practice Islam with the way of the first 3 generations of Muslims, name 50 people from it. Name 50 people from the first generation and what's their understanding of wudu. Just like right now, you could look at those 4 madhabs and they all from the first 3 generations, even if you want to exclude Imam Ahmed from the 3rd generation. Just look at Shafi'i, Imam Hanifa, which is the Hanafi madhab, and Imam Malik. Some of them say you make salah with your hands to your side. Some say with your hands below your navel. And then some say above your navel. They don't even see Salat all the same way. So they all didn't have the exact same understanding on every single issue. So therefore, it makes it impossible for you to have to be practicing Islam with the understanding they had, and you don't even know the understanding they had. And this is with the Sunni, the Shafi, and I'm saying to the point where you starting to say, because I call this myself this, and I don't really understand this, I could treat other Muslims that don't call themselves this exact same thing any way that I want. I'm making you haram. I'm making my bad treatment to you permissible. I'm boycotting you. I'm boycotting your masjid. Why are you doing that? Because y'all innovators. But this isn't an innovative practice that you up on. And this, like I say, this comes from lack of just understanding the Wahi, the Quran and the Sunnah and the situations that was going down. So let me just touch this little bit. I'm gonna get off that. I just wanted to touch on that, man, because it's becoming a huge fitna amongst the Muslims, all the way to the point right now. It done became a huge fitna in the last few years in America, especially on the East Coast, where Muslims is killing each other because they don't call each other the same thing. Kill one Muslim, right? And then when they having a janazah for this Muslim, come to the janazah and shoot the janazah up, trying to get some of the friends who was with the person that they already killed. Why is that permissible? They wasn't Salafi. They wasn't Ashari. They didn't go to said masjid. This ain't a bid'ah. So look, some of the causes of revelation, right? The main purpose of the revelations, we know it's for guidance, right? And we know it's to bring humanity from darkness into light, right? So often these revelations, because we know it was revealed over a certain amount of time, right? Often the revelations would come in response to a certain situation, an event, or a problem, or a question posed to the Prophet, alayhi salam. The situation, the event, the problem, or question is known as Sabah an-Nuzul, right? Some say Nazil, however you want to pronounce it or whatever. I'm just saying because I done heard people pronounce it different. So whatever fits you, right? Or the cause of the revelation. It has been defined as the background for the revelation, the event, the occurrence, or question that was direct cause of the revelation or the surah or the verse to be brought down, right? So having knowledge of the cause of the revelation plays a major role in providing a proper understanding of the meaning of a verse. That is why historically, scholars have always given importance to study the narrations, hadiths and athar, right, that mention a cause of revelation, and even compile those narrations into books. So just a book on all the narrations, hadiths, narrations, on what caused this ayat to come down, right? An example of such a narration is found in Sahih Bukhari, right? So I guess I'll read it, right? So now keep in mind it's an athar. Kabah ibn al-Ara may Allah be pleased with him, narrated, I was a blacksmith, and Al-As ibn Wa'il owed me a debt. So I went to him and demanded it. He said to me, I will not pay you your debt until you disbelieve in Muhammad, alayhi salam. I said, I will not disbelieve in Muhammad until you die and then be resurrected. He said, will I be resurrected after my death? If so, I shall pay you there. Boy, some people something else, right? If I should find wealth and children, so it was revealed. So now here comes the ayat, right? And I'm glad I read this little bit because I wanna point out something, right? So it was revealed, have you seen him who disbelieve in our signs, and yet say, I shall certainly be given wealth and children, like after he dies, right? Had he known the unseen, or has he taken a covenant from Allah, the Beneficent? No, we shall record what he says, and we shall add to his punishment, and we shall inherit from him all that he talks of, and we shall appear before us alone. And he shall appear before us alone. Now keep in mind, this is in Sahih Bukhari, right? This is why you have some people that say Athar and some people say Hadith. This isn't the Prophet said. This was narrated. So where it says an example of such in English, an example of such a narration, instead of saying example of such a hadith. So this is what's referred to as an athar from the Salaf. So this particular individual from the Sahaba, the Salaf, those first three generations, right, from amongst the Sahaba, he narrated what was going on. That made a verse from the Quran to come down where the Quran is speaking about this specific person because Allah heard what he said. He don't believe in the afterlife, but then he sits down and say, in the afterlife, I'm going to be given wealth and children and I'll pay you in the next life. But at the same time, you questioning whether you're going to be resurrected or not? Really on some, man, I ain't going to pay you till you disbelieve in Muhammad. Now, somebody might try to take this ayat and twist it without knowing what was going on and then try to force it on the people. So, just to push through it, so you come through, you have, so again, this is the scholars of the Quran. They have listed a few benefits of knowing the cause of revelation. One, it sheds light on the wisdom behind a particular legal ruling. Two, it provides context and background that will prevent misinterpretations. Right? Three, it aids in properly applying the verse. Just look at that list. One, it sheds light on the wisdom behind a particular legal ruling. You need to know the wisdom behind that before you try to force it as a legal ruling on somebody else and it doesn't apply. Two, it provides context and background that will prevent misinterpretations, where you can't twist the ayat up how you want to. You can't misinterpret it, right? Well, it helps with not being misinterpreted. Three, it aids in properly applying the verse. Now you know how to apply it to your life properly. Four, it provides the names of individuals who may be referred to in a verse. So this is the athar and the hadiths. So you would know exactly, because the Quran doesn't mention them by name in some cases, But when you go to the Athar and the Hadiths, then it'll let you know who these particular individuals was. Right? So now check this out. In consideration given to the words general meaning or the specific cause, the scholars have disagreed regarding a very fine issue. When interpreting a verse, should consideration be given to the general meaning of the words or the specific cause of the revelation? So, meaning, if a particular incident occurred and a verse was revealed regarding it, should the ruling of that verse be limited to that specific incident, or can it be applied generally? These are things you need to know, right? The vast majority of scholars agree. So when it say vast majority of scholars agree, this is letting you know this is consensus. This is ijma, right? Agree that the consideration is given to the general meaning of words. Now, Imam al-Suyuti, may Allah be pleased with him, writes in Al-Itqan fi Ulum al-Quran, from the proof that consideration is for the general meaning of the words is that the companions, may Allah be pleased with them all, and others use the general meanings of the verses as proof, even though they were revealed with a specific cause. In easier words, the application of a verse is general, and it is not limited to the specific incident that was its cause of the revelation. So that's just the end of that. So that is giving you a little bit of feedback on how you trying to force certain things on people and you using the Quran and you trying to use Hadith and you trying to use Athar, but you're misquoting these things and you coming up with rulings that shouldn't be there and forcing them on the people. So, and then especially when you're using blanket statements. Okay, you finna force these up on the people based off of what? Oh, well, this is the understanding that the Salaf had. The majority of them, the least amount of them. Can you name me 10 people from the Salaf that had this exact same understanding? Were they Ashari? Was they Mutridi? Was they from the Jahmiyyah? Who are they? Because these people existed during those times. Look at when the people came to question Imam Malik about how Allah rose above his throne. Because you had individuals who felt like it's impossible for Allah to rise above his throne however he done it. Because they say Allah exists without a place. Allah created directions, therefore he can't move in a direction. But, you sometimes you had to have enough intellect to say, before there was language, right? Up, down, right, left, north, south, east, west. Who used things as direction? Like right now, if you look at a cow that's walking out in the pasture, you think that cow know which direction it's going? A lion, do you think go all the way back to the times of Adam, right? Alayhi salam. If Adam was walking that way, you think Adam said, I'm walking right, left, north, south, east, west, this is up, this is down? They just lived, looked at the sky, looked at the ground. So some of these terminologies as far as directions and up, down, these things started to come with language as language started to be developed for purposes of communications and helping people getting around. You see what I'm saying? Without a GPS system, or like us, we make salat, so we know to look for certain directions to pray. So sometimes as we driving and riding around, we curious as to what direction we're going. But they say because the word up and the word down and the word left and right came into the English language at some or certain languages at a particular point in time, what came first? You can't put a limitation on a law based off of some words that was put into a language later on in life. But not to get into that, because I don't want to be offensive to what anybody beliefs is. My point is, people came and tested Imam Malik with these things, and he answered these questions, and these type of things is written down. But the simple fact is this lets you know that everybody from the Salaf didn't have the exact same understanding on every last thing. So therefore, how can you have it? Like, keep in mind, I'm Salafi, but I'm not the type of Salafi that's a big heavy boycotter. Hey, you ain't my friend, I can't salam you because you don't call yourself Salafi. I can't pray in your masjid because you don't call your masjid Salafi. It don't matter what you up on. This is a question that I posed though. What books, what school do you go to learn how to be a Salafi? What dalil do you have? This is the understanding that everybody from the Salaf had. You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it. Like, once we get through this and then we get through I start to bust out some of the tafsirs like Tattoo Kurtubi. Even with me showing some, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's even if you sit down and look at tafsirs, Ibn Kathir, and it'll say, even in English, this ayat came down, this Sahaba, this Tabi'in, this Tabi, they said this about this ayat. Then this other set of 6 said it meant something different. They didn't have the exact same understanding. They understood it differently. So how do you have a general blanket statement that you force on the people and then even mistreat the people when clearly you don't have the understanding that they had, because they all didn't have the exact same understanding? Simple and plain. That's a bid'ah. You have a misunderstanding of what being a Salafi means, because you don't even really understand what ijma of the Salaf is. You're a blind follower of only specific people that you allowed to listen to. Where this come from? The same people that ain't never studied nowhere want somebody talking about something that they can't understand and that they are unable to combat with academics. Then it turns into, well, where did you learn? Who was your teacher? Name your scholars. The people from the Salaf said, name your men. That's Jahwa Tadil. What are you talking about? We talking about an isnad? What do you mean? What are you talking about? But cool, I honor that. But being that you forcing it up on me, name your men first. Oh, well, such and such a Fulan from the past. Those my men too. Now what? Now what? So you had to get into these things, man. These sciences is important, because it's a lot of groups out here trying to force things upon people that they don't even really understand. From all these groups, even some Sunnis, even some Shiites, whatever group you want to call yourself from. Now, I repeat, I understand what being Salafi means. So when I say I'm Salafi, no, I'm not from the group that's out here combating individuals and being up on. I'm not from that. I understand what ijma is. You see what I'm saying? I understand what the majority of the scholars mean. Because even like right now, you have a vast amount of scholars in Africa. You have a vast amount of scholars in Kuwait. You have scholars in Saudi Arabia. You have scholars in Yemen. You have scholars in Asia. You have scholars in India. Regardless of whether you want to accept them or not, these are scholars. On certain issues, when did somebody collectively get a poll from every last one of them to figure out what the majority of them agree on? So like even right now, because I see it, right now you have particular individuals that'll put something out on somebody and say this and say that and then say the majority of the scholars agree this. And it don't even be true. It may be 2-3 scholars that see it from that way. And then you have to understand, like we've been talking about in these lessons, the scholars of fiqh, the scholars of hadith, the scholars of Quran, the scholars of usul, like basically some people call that like the foundations of Islam. They don't all agree on how to, like fiqh has some things where certain rulings you don't need an isnad, and you know what I'm saying, like for them, like in the Hanafi madhab, which Imam Hanifa was from the Salaf. In his madhab, they have, if you laugh during salat, it breaks your wudu. So some individuals from the Salaf said that if you laugh, it breaks your wudu. That's how some of them understood it. If you laugh during salat, it breaks your wudu. And then they have a general statement which isn't connected to the Rasul. At least it could be somebody else's opinion. And then they went with his opinion. Right? But there's no firm dalil or ijma from the Salaf to where you can force that on the people and call it a ruling. But this just goes to show, if you follow with the understanding that they had, is that your understanding? Because some people from the Salaf had that understanding. It's written in a madhab today. If you laugh during salat, it breaks your wudu. They didn't all have the same understanding. That is a very blanket statement. And you know, some of them listen to this, some of them probably get mad at me, some of them might even say some things in the comment, or because I have a different understanding, I understand what true ijma of the Salaf is, and then I know certain books to go get to look at their differences of opinions and how they saw it from the actual Sahaba, from even Tafsir Ibn Kathir has some of them listed. I know they all didn't have the same understanding. So, you know, not to make it about that. Alhamdulillah. So, we'll get into the abrogated verses, which is very important, because like it even touched on, you know, some things about verses that's been abrogated. You actually have, according to some athar, there is some verses, and that's what I'm saying, according to some narrations. But then there's Quran ayats that back up these statements, where there were certain ayats that was abrogated completely out of the Quran, where they're not even in there no more, according to some narrations. Now, of course, brother, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what he's talking about. Woo out the woo. All you have to do is just, once you get into those bigger books, you'll see it. Do that mean that the Quran wasn't preserved? But Allah addressed this. If I choose to abrogate something, if I choose to have something sent down and for it to be forgotten, just know I replaced it with something better. Quran ayat. I mean, I kind of worded it, you know, in an English way, but It's there. But my alarm's going off. So assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Anything I said that was incorrect came from myself and the shaitan. Anything I said that was correct came from Allah Azza wa Jalla. I moved to there. And I wasn't speaking on these things to offend anybody or to feel like somebody's toes is being stepped on or to be challenging individuals. But the reality is people trying to force certain things on individuals with an extremely limited understanding. And it's causing a lot of fitna. It's causing a lot of differences. And like I say, a lot of the basis of me conversating is because I be watching, where I'm literally watching a video where an individual from the Salafi community, right, which I'm saying because now in America, when you refer to yourself as Salafi, that means you belong to a particular set of people that only go to certain masjids that's approved of, only allowed to listen to certain people that's approved of. And the thing would be funny, they'll have a whole list, right? It might be a person on a list that goes to the masjid, but the imam of the masjid isn't on the list that they made. In Cincinnati, in Ohio, this particular person's on the list. He might be a guest speaker every once in a while, but this is Salafi Masjid, but the actual imam of the masjid name isn't on the list of people that you could listen to. Make it make sense. So I'm listening at brothers from the particular Salafi community and people from the Ashari community. They set up debates, and I be watching them debate, and every single time I watch them Salafi brothers get their head knocked. Salafi as in from that community, not Salafi as in like actual up on Ijma from the Salaf. Getting their head knocked with Dalil. And the best that they able to come up with is it's permissible for a person to call themselves Salafi. Yes, it's permissible for a person to call themselves Salafi, but where does it have to be forced up on the people, and where does somebody have to get treated as less if they don't call themselves Salafi? It's not what you call yourself, it's what you actually be upon. You can have a person who's a horrible, because we do have more horrible Muslims. We got horrible everything. We got some horrible Muslims. We got some that's on drugs. May Allah help them. We got some that's on drugs. We got some brothers that's women beaters, selling dope. They doing everything under the sun just as like they did before they became Muslim. But because they call themselves Salafi, none of that matters. But then a person who may not refer to themselves as Salafi, educated, up on Haqq. Like I'm going to give you a prime example. Imam Muslim Family Center. So you have to understand, like, I'm in tune with a lot of people from the Salafi community. Because I'm Salafi, I'm just not, I'm not their type. So I'm sitting in a group. We actually in Philly. So sometimes when you in a house and people are related, you have particular individuals from this masjid, but they're related to people from opposing masjid. But both masjids refer to themselves as Salafi. Right? Some actually up on the minhaj of the Salaf. Keep in mind, it's just a minhaj, a methodology. Right? And then some who just call themselves Salafi. Right? So we in a house. Right? And I'm traveling, so I'm with a particular group. So the particular group said we finna go to Imam Muslim Family Center. We finna go down there and pray. It's right around the corner. So one particular brother said, man, y'all finna go to that masjid? That's a masjid, that's an innovator's masjid. Now I'm sitting there. So dude said, how is it a masjid of bid'ah? He said, man, them brothers is Salafi. Dude said, them brothers ain't Salafi, they Hanbali. Now the reason why I laugh at that, wallahi, this was a true statement. Them brothers ain't Salafi, they Hanbali. He even went as far as I went down there to check them brothers on their Salafiyah, and they was Hanbali. Imam Ahmed Hanbali is from the Salaf. So if by your terminology, if a person is up on the fiqh of Ahmed Hanbal, wouldn't that make him up on the understanding of a person from the Salaf? Which would make him what? According to your definition, a Salafi. But these brothers but it was you know what I'm saying, and they just kind of looked at him and said, that's exactly why you need to come with us. So he said, nah, I ain't going in that masjid. That's a masjid of bid'ah. So we literally got in the car. He got in the car with us, right? Now check out this mindset. We go to the masjid, right? This brother, a couple of blocks up, said, let me out the car. I'm going to wait up here. And then y'all come back when y'all get done praying in there. Y'all come back around and pick me up. It was like, for what? He said, because if the brothers see me sitting in the car or see me with some people going in that masjid, they going to boycott me and say that somebody saw me with some innovators. When you don't even know, you just seeing some people in the car going into the masjid to pray. That automatically makes them innovators because they going to pray in the masjid. When we know from the foundations of this deen, you can pray behind an innovator as long as this certain things haven't taken them out of the fold of Islam. But he was serious. But hold on, check this out. So they let him out the car. 2 blocks down. We went in the masjid. We prayed. They talked to a couple of people. I didn't know anybody. But you know, Salam people told people where I was from. We get back in the car, hit the block, circle the block, and picked them back up. But dig this here though. The rest of the day, he with us. So you with some innovators already. You don't care if they see you in the car with us going to the chicken spot. You don't care if they see you in a car with us riding the food line them house. You still with some people who's so-called innovators, right? But this was the worst part of it all. That brother never even prayed. He ain't going to masjid and pray with us. He didn't pray at the house before we left. And then when we got in the car and rode around, he still didn't pray. And then even when we got to the house, but this is the deep part, we was out and about until the next prayer came in. And we went back to the same masjid, dropped him off a couple of blocks up and went in there and prayed, came back out, went and picked him back up again, and that brother still hadn't prayed. But his focus was on, I can't pray in that masjid because they ain't Salafi, they Hanbali. So because they Hanbali, right? Because they Hanbali, their masjid is a masjid of bid'ah. But then they'll turn around and say out of their mouth, so what do you say about the 4 imams? Oh, we take for all 4 of them. You take from all of the 4 great imams? Imam Malik, Hanifa, Shafi, and Hanbali? Yeah, we take from all of them. So then how was these brothers masjid a masjid of bid'ah? Because they actually went to school and chose Hanbali in fiqh. when you take from all of them? It didn't make no sense. But he introduced a principle that he stood on, and he didn't even go pray at all. He didn't even pray for anybody who want to jump in and defend him. He didn't even pray outside when we dropped him off. Wasn't in wudu or nothing. We asked, man, did you at least pray outside? I'll make my prayers up when I get home. Now, and I do want to throw in this simple fact. The first prayer we went and prayed there was Asr. When we came back around, the next prayer we went in there and prayed was Maghrib. This brother said when he got home, he was going to pray Asr and Maghrib together. He was going to combine them. But you know, may Allah protect us all. And like I say, I'm not knocking the brother choices. I was just quiet the whole time, man, because to be honest, I really felt bad for him because his Islam was superior to ours because he called himself Salafi. But keep in mind, we all ascribe to Salafiyah as well. But we're not accepted in their group. So therefore, based off of their criteria, we're not Salafi either. But you was with us all day. You was with us all day. And the people I was with, we went to our hotels. You know what I'm saying? We went back to our hotels around the time of Isha. So we left from them, and you know, we went back to the same masjid, prayed Isha, went to the hotel. I don't know what that brother did. We didn't drop him off. He was still with them when we left. So, man, but anyway, man, I'm sorry to get into all of that, man, but to me it's important. And because like I said, I'm watching these debates. Now the Asharis is coming up, doing whole conferences and podcasts, is talking about the creation of Wahhabism. It's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand. I'm sitting up looking at them in debates because the Salafis losing. We catch you. Don't ever come to Jersey. You no longer welcome at this certain masjid. I thought you was a Salafi. You come to this masjid, we gonna stand on you. They arguing, talking about meeting up and fighting. But everybody is Muslim. Quran and Sunnah, right? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.